And
I don't know why it says that. Apologies.
no, that's right. I thought it was me. We've got Liam Clancy from Keep Hotel, who's going to run us through what's happening with that. Liam, welcome. Over to you.
Thanks, Steve. So nice to meet you all. So as the guys mentioned, my colleague Rim and Oyton, who are both on the call, we work for Reed Exhibitions and we host a Keep Hotel. Hopefully, in some way or another, all of you are familiar with what we do at a Keep Hotel. But for those who don't, I'll try to change slide. I know how to do that. There we go. So a Keep Hotel looks after the HoReCa industry and everything that encompasses, mainly throughout the European continent. So our simple aim is to provide our clients, from service providers, technology providers, to anything that can sort of sit within a hotel room, an audience of buyers that are interested within their products. Now, the way in which we choose to introduce those clients to our audience is very much down to how our clients believe their brand is best going to be represented to their audience. So we view ourselves as very much of a blank canvas, and we like to allow our clients the freedom to tell us what they would like, and we look for the best medium for them to utilize. So we run our trade show, which takes place in Paris every 2 years, and to complement that and to further our clients' engagement with our audience, we have launched a Keep Hotel Online, which will be running alongside the trade show, and we're working and is a 365 marketing directory through which you can engage with any potential buyers that you would hope to work from restaurateurs to hotels to catering companies, anyone that would have a vested interest in what it is that you guys are doing. And I think now more than ever, if looking at how heavily the hospitality industry in general has been impacted by coronavirus, I think it's safe to say that the industry is probably one of the heaviest hits, and even there's heavier hit. And even as we start to move out of the pandemic and other industries are now starting to see an upturn in business, the hospitality industry is still very much reeling from the pandemic, because people are still uncomfortable in being in crowded places that is tied to the industry. So our event, we feel, couldn't be better timed to help our clients and help our prospective clients move out of the pandemic and help with their strategies to start developing the growth. Being based within Paris as a destination, it's probably, it may not always be the most ideal and most desirable place for people to travel. I think there's very much there can be a bit of a negative image around Paris. People only, French companies tend to only like to work with other French companies, but we're seeing that is very much changing through the buyers that we have on site, and the events that are taking place in and around France over the next sort of 4 or 5 years. So from the Rugby World Cup to the Olympics, there is going to be a massive influx in hospitality projects and development projects that are going to help our clients to bring their businesses back to the level that they were at prior to the coronavirus taking place. So across the event, we're a HoReCa focused trade show. So we've got, I think, obviously being called a Keep Hotel, there can be a bit of a misconception that we only work with hotel companies and we only look to introduce our clients to hoteliers from around Europe, but that's very much not the case. Across the 4 or 5 days, we deliver 113,000 people on site across the event, and 25% of those are coming from a commercial catering background. I mean, even 6%, which may not seem as a large percentage of our audience, are coming from food service contractors. 6% of 113,000 is still, over 7,000 people, which looking at what also you guys as members and organisers from FEA, hopefully, they're the kind of people that you guys would want to be engaging with, and why we feel that a Keep Hotel at this point in time would be an ideal solution for, as I mentioned, coming out of the pandemic. So looking at the actual trade show itself and how the UK as a country and our domestic exhibitors and clients have started to see success. As it says there, 80% of our exhibitors have already committed to the show next year, based on the numbers around that are mentioned above. You know, we and myself within Equipe Hotel, I purely work with companies who are exporting to international markets and looking at how countries like France, Spain, Germany, and the Netherlands are all interacting with our buyers and with our exhibitors. You know, they're spending $460 million a year on food service equipment alone, and that's not taking into account other spends that they have into the industry itself. So we, like I said at the start, have the offering within the trade show. We have the audience on site that really allows you guys to engage with a new audience, a new qualified audience or prospective buyers. We just want to show or give you guys the opportunity to be a part of that, because as we start to come out of the pandemic, starting to get back into face-to-face trade shows, we feel that Equipe Hotel offers you guys as the members an opportunity to really branch out into a new activity, which some of you may have never been involved with in the past, and interacting with a new audience.
Thank you, Liam. So hello, everyone. So I will continue. We just have 2 more slides ahead. We hope that you know Equipe Hotel, and if you don't, this is a very basic and easy overview to understand that show. So it's dedicated to hospitality. So not only hotels, this is very important, like Liam said. For the first time in years, we are going to have our main pavilion dedicated to food service, so kitchen equipment, tableware, but not only companies. And we also have the rest of the hall dedicated to the rest of the offer that is also very dynamic. So Liam, can you go ahead with the next slide? I wanted to show you that we have 4 main topics that are going to be very, very interesting for this hall, for the main hall. We are going to have one culinary competition event. So it's going to be an experiential area. It's going to be dedicated to competitions. So chefs coming from all over Europe with 8 full boxes, fully equipped by our sponsors. So we don't know which company are going to sponsor this area, but it's a very good press coverage, a very good visibility for companies that sponsors this kind of experiential areas that are very, very well welcomed by our buyers, by all the attendees actually. We are going also to have a partners lounge in this hall, I mean. So it's going to be dedicated to business meetings. We are going to concentrate the matchmaking possibilities and the networking events on those sectors. So the food service sectors, those are very important for us, even more. It is even more the case because of the COVID situation. We've been discussing with buyers, attendees, and also exhibitors. I think that those sectors more than ever need networking possibilities. So this is something that is going to happen, and we cannot wait to build this partners lounge. We are going also to have, for the first time at Equipe Hotel, a food summit. So in French, we name it Agora Restauration. So it's going to be conferences slots dedicated to food service topics. So I don't have the lists yet because it's still under construction. We are still discussing with the partners such as FCSI France, the French part. We are still thinking, and I'm sure we will not be lacking any inspiration for those topics. And also the most important, not the most important, but one of the most important thing is that in this hall, like I said, is going to be the main entrance of the whole show. And we are going to have the main reception. So I think it's quite important. I don't know who exactly is here today, but I had a look at your members. I know that we have UK offices of French or USA or I don't know from which country exactly, but leaders in the food service that are actually exhibiting at our show. I'm thinking about Winterhalter, for instance, or those kind of brands. But I think it's quite important for any food service company to know that this year you are in the spotlight, in the first spotlight. So thank you so much for listening to us and welcoming us to your meeting. That's been a pleasure for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liam and Rim. If anybody
Thanks.
needs any contact details for them, you can contact me and I'll pass on the details.
Of course. Yes, of course. And if you have any question or if you want to contact us, you can contact Liam or I. We would be honored. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
Jocelyn, just for clarity, is that November 2022? That's not
Yes.
this year, next year?
Yeah, that's correct. We actually have launched an online catalog. It's an online platform that has started in April of this year. We are using this platform to have some content, some catalogs of our clients as well. They can show their products. They can have webinars if they want to speak about any topic they want. And it's a good way to prepare the next show that is correct in November 2022. And we decided to launch this online platform this year because we had to cancel the show last November, which was very unfortunate, of course. And this decision has been made for several reasons, but one of them is that we always keep in touch with our buyers, and they said that they really need physical events to see the products of their clients, to see new clients, new topic, new trends, etc. So yes, an online platform is good, but they cannot wait to join us in 1 year and a half. So yes, it's going to be in 2022, and we cannot wait.
Great, thanks for that. Has anyone got any brief questions that they'd like to pose now? If so, please fire off. No? Okay, well, thanks very much, both of you.
Thank you for your time. I enjoy your afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jocelyn and Keith as well, and Stephen. Have a nice day.
Thanks. Bye. Okay, Jocelyn, do you want to put up and share the revised agenda then?
There you go.
Thanks, that's great. Okay, so we're next on the agenda is then overseas exhibitions. So I think these look like they're all in chronological order.
They are, yeah.
So the NAFEM show, I can't remember, have FEA got a stand there? I can't remember.
No, we do not this time around. There isn't an official UK pavilion. However, Nigel Adedande is representing the UK on our behalf.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Well done.
Sorry, I was muted. Stephen, just send anything along. We'll do it for you.
This list is just to keep, I mean, it's not necessarily that we have to talk about every exhibition. It's just for your information so you know what's coming up.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's nice actually to see them appearing there, and let's hope they do take place. August, I'm guessing that August is still definitely going ahead, that one, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, that will be the first test, really, won't it? Because that will be the first main one we've had in our industry for ages. So
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think, Caroline, sorry, Jocelyn, at this moment there's much doubt it'll happen. The question is, can you get there from the UK and get back?
Correct.
Yeah. And maybe from elsewhere.
Yeah, but from the US, movement inside the US is free now.
Yes.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, thanks for that, Nigel. Okay.
And anything on host, Keith or Jocelyn?
The latest that we heard from host is that from the show organizers is that it is going ahead 100%, unless Keith has heard something else in the past week. Have you?
No, that's correct, Jocelyn. FSEM, which is the European Federation of Catering Equipment Manufacturers, and that includes 8 national associations, of which the FEA is one of a member of FSEM, wrote to the organisers suggesting that a delay of a year might be desirable to maximise the attendance. And we also sought the support of other organisations outside of Europe to support the case. The letter went to the organisers and they were very clear in their response, saying that the show would go ahead as planned this year. If I'm honest, the consensus talking around a number of FEA members and also our colleagues in Europe, it was that this year was not ideal because we're already within now the window of delivery for the exhibition if companies were going to go, just because of the logistics that are involved, and also, as we all know, the uncertainty of travel at the moment. And many companies I know haven't taken stands, or indeed if they have, may have taken smaller stands, and indeed some companies who had booked have cancelled those stands. So I think from our side, as the customer side, if that makes sense, I think there's still some trepidation, but from the organisers' side, it's business as usual.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, hopefully we won't be there alone as well.
It is one we've, because we were very seriously looking at cancelling, and I think I've managed to persuade the owners to keep us there, but certainly from who we've polled, I know a lot of the Far East and a lot of the South American countries will not be attending.
Yeah.
But still, I think everybody we polled across Europe and the Middle East that normally attend are still intending to attend.
Right. Thanks for that, John. Okay. If anybody wants to mention any others, then please do. But I was just going to mention about Gulf Host. And Jocelyn, did you just want to say a word for those who weren't aware of how your conversation or whatever went with the organisers recently?
Right. So the Gulf Coast exhibition, we were not able to go because we were prohibited from going. So we were planning on bringing 4 companies, but it didn't end up happening because we couldn't get there because it's on the red list. Gulf Coast has not officially announced it, but their plan is to be co-joined with Gulf Food Manufacturing in November 2022. Now I'm aware that those dates actually clash with the Keep Hotel, but they're going ahead with those dates. But unless I hear otherwise, that's the plan. So 8th to 10th of November 2022, because of Gulf Food Manufacturing being at the same time, that's actually a good move, we think. But and those who were due to those 4 companies that were supposed to go, they will be able to go in 2022 instead, using some credit from that. So it worked out okay for our UK exhibitors.
Yeah, I'm just going to ask: was there any consideration of it joining up with Gulf Food again next year as an alternative?
Not that they told me.
Right. Okay.
No.
Okay. We'll have to see how it goes, but it's a little way off, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. Thanks, Jocelyn.
Sure.
So we're then on to something to do with Tokyo and Japan.
So this is another thing that's just for your information. I'll include these details in the actions from the meeting because it has links to the podcast. So it's just if someone has interest in exporting or having relationships with Japan. Apparently UK food service equipment is highly regarded there, and anybody who's manufacturing in the UK they do like UK equipment. That's what the embassy tells me. So if anybody needs any help with getting in contact with them, I do have a contact name there at the British Embassy, but these links to the podcast explain more.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much for that. Keith, over to you.
Keith, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you all. Yes, this is really just to pick up on any post-Brexit issues, which may not be Brexit issues, but are also, I think, as we know, COVID related. We put out a call regarding challenges that we're finding within the supply chain. Not sure there's very much we can do about it, but what it means to have the information from any of you on the call in terms of supply chain issues and delays helps us feed into government directly through the work we do with BEIS and in writing letters to the Chancellor or wherever else that might be to try and gain more support, but also with other influential bodies such as Make UK, who we're an affiliate partner to. We feed the information in there. So if you haven't already responded, we're only asking some very simple, straightforward questions via the email. What particular challenges are you finding in terms of sourcing product and any supply chain issues? What the delays are, and if it's possible to compare that with what life was like before you met the challenges. So, you know, have delays gone from 3 or 4 days to 3 to 4 weeks, for example? That's useful. And the other critical factor we're monitoring is on staffing, where we know there are challenges there in certainly in finding some operative staff. Certainly within factories, it's become an increasing challenge. And any support that you can give us there in representing a collective view. And I must stress, none of the information will be used on an individual basis. It'll all be aggregated and reported back. So very valuable to have your information there. But I guess if we've got a couple of minutes, Jocelyn, worth just sharing any information on the call now, and I can take the notes accordingly. So I'll offer it over to the meeting, Steve, if I may.
Yeah, sure. If I could just say, I heard something I think it was in the news in the last week or so, where this issue of supply chain complications had arisen, and it was, I think, battered away a little bit with the fact that demand or I don't know, just general business optimism had gone through the roof. Well, I take that with a pinch of salt, really, because of course, if everything's been closed for a year, it's hardly surprising that it's going through the roof at the moment. But I would be very surprised if anybody is not suffering supply chain delays. So open to others to comment now. Please go ahead. Just don't forget to unmute yourselves first, though. Yeah, go ahead, Nigel.
I think I would not be able to tell the difference between COVID-driven supply chain issues and Brexit. So the early Brexit issue with documentation is easing as the shippers get more used to it. But the supply chain issues, there are lots of them more associated with COVID, but the documentation is certainly, people are adjusting to it. And I think it will be very hard to judge the impact until the second half of the year, the Brexit impact.
Yeah.
I would agree with Nigel that certainly from a documentation process, that is really not been the problem now. I think where we have found the issue with supply chain is that the costs are now fourfold of what it used to be. to try and ship goods. We are trying to ship goods DDP, but that's where our biggest problem is for our customers, is that we're actually looking at finishing the DDP side because the cost of it is just, it's become too much. So I think that's going to have a very marked effect on future potential for export, and more the potential for moving to that marketplace.
Thanks, John. Yeah. Anybody else wish to comment?
Yeah, hi guys. I mean, just from our side, from synergy's point of view, I was just going to add, we've looked at DAP, DDP a few times, and we've just decided to stay clear cut of DDP. Probably through the fears that were arisen from sort of 3 months of particularly the French border agencies almost looking to hold it up. I'd agree with John's and Nigel comments that seems to have been passed on. The sort of any excuses to say documentation is wrong has kind of run out, but it's the kind of general, not really any tangible reason. Is it still a delayed result of containers being in the wrong place for a year or two following the Suez crisis? And it's kind of like a few things have come together. So all suppliers have just sort of felt that they can therefore push back on supply times, and it's difficult from our side to tell what it is as well. I mean, it could be a case that people just haven't really been working. Suppliers to the supply chain to hospitality industry are probably fairly out of practice. Different staff, new staff, different processes. Certainly, very few companies where it's like full man hours, everyone in. So it's kind of like the supply chain is getting a bit comfortable with being able to push back with longer lead times. But when it came to costs, we've been working with a few freight forwarders to get an idea of when they might change. It's generally been 3 times air freight for the last year or so, sea freight only more recently. And that was expected to come down in September when passenger flights would start returning. But yeah, the news in the last 2 weeks isn't showing a huge amount of passenger flights returning. So expect it to be kind of 2.5 times for the rest of this year.
Thanks, Leander. Anybody else wish to comment? Peter, are you with us? Would you like to make any comments? No? Okay. The only other thing I would say is that what we're finding is it doesn't matter what product you're talking about, and it's not just our industry. There seems to be a shortage. So I think this supply chain isn't just affecting the hospitality industry; it's every industry. And it doesn't matter what material it is. It could be plastic. It could be stainless steel. Could be wood. Whatever product it is, and we, like you, John, we cover a wide range of products in our range. I'm just told that it doesn't matter what you go for. There's a shortage, and there are delays, and sort of you work on about a 6-month lead time, John, roughly speaking, from Asia, realistically.
Yes, we are now. India has obviously gone out a lot further because our manufacturers and factories that we utilize there are all still closed. So yeah, I would say India has gone out to potentially 6-7 months. China's coming down a little bit, but it's then finding the container at the right price.
Yeah. And we're finding that with some suppliers, it's like every time you place an order, the cost has gone up. And I'm not just talking the freight. The freight costs have seen, sea freight costs seem to have eased a little bit, but they're still sometimes 3 to 4 times what they were. So, for a container or whatever. So that's what I'm hearing. And obviously has a knock-on effect. And I think, but Brexit-wise, I think at the beginning, if you go back to sort of right at the beginning of the year, obviously the deal was done just before Christmas. Nobody really knew what the knock-on effect was going to be, and so now we know. there's going to be a knock-on effect with prices because of duties. You know, for example, this which is down to origin, I believe, Keith, isn't it? Really.
Rules of origin is a huge challenge.
Yeah. So sort of, I think the assumption was made, perhaps, well, certainly, you know, if without going into too much detail, that if we had to deal with the EU, that whatever you brought in from the EU would be tariff free. But I think it wasn't clear unless you really looked into it or into the details that only was the case if it was actually made in the EU. So, but you know, I think at the end of the day, everybody's in the same boat, so we just have to live with it.
I think one of the things that we're certainly hearing a lot from our manufacturing partners is the shortage of raw materials, which is driving the cost of them up. But in order to resource wood, stainless steel, plastic materials, that's what is potentially extending the lead times a lot more, because you know, I think we produce a squeeze bottle here in the UK, and we kind of got the last 16 ton of our material in the country. So, and that comes from Germany. So it really is down to actually getting hold of the raw material. If you can do that, then I think that's half the battle. Reduce the lead times in the sort of shorter term.
Okay, we've anybody else like to make any comment on this, or we'll just respond? Keith, sorry, or Jocelyn, there was an email that went out, wasn't there? Is there any chance you could resend that out just to reprompt us, please?
Yes, I can send it. I sent it last week. I had 6 members, some of them who are on this call. I've responded already. So you don't need to respond again, obviously, if I'm sending the email. I can certainly resend the email, yes.
Okay, thanks. That's great. Okay, great. Keith, sorry, was there anything else you wanted to add to that, or
no, that's all good, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. So then we come to roundtable discussion on other export issues or international virtual exhibitions. Anyone like to kick this off? Keith, had you got something in mind here?
Yeah, a couple of pieces to pick up on it. If I take the virtual exhibitions first, we'd be keen to know if anybody has any experience of using virtual exhibitions to good effect overseas, or perhaps where there's some knowledge that's useful from UK virtual exhibitions that you think may be useful in supporting or developing export work. I know there are lots of virtual presentations going on on different platforms with different objectives, and if there's anything there that's being successful, it would be very useful to know that. Certainly from an FSEM perspective, FSEM is looking at this as to whether there is an opportunity to fill a gap, and it may be locally as the FEA we could help fill that gap by putting something on that helps companies get to overseas markets in a way that not able to do through the physical events. And our links with the overseas embassies and also with the trade advisors may help us with that. So really just any feedback principally on the platforms or formats that may seem to be working, if indeed there are any. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody want to make any comment on that at the moment, or has anyone had any experience of that? No. Okay.
We found that the Specify show was good. The one done earlier, and we're hoping, I think, that they can improve on that next year. A couple of partners in America have tried virtual trade shows, put a lot of resources behind it kind of last year, and then it really didn't. It was a bit of a flop for various reasons. Bandwidth, it all suddenly freezing when more than kind of 4 people entered the room. But as far as the first event goes, we found the Specify one to be very well thought through from the buyer's point of view. There was good interaction. It was manageable as much as it could be, and I'm sure it'll be better next time. So we're looking forward to that one from a virtual trade show point of view.
Thanks, Ian. Okay, if nobody's got any others, any other export issues that people want to mention? Yeah, Keith, go ahead.
I've got one that we picked up from a member this week, and it may or may not be unique to them, but it really comes back to the Brexit issue, but not so much around the paperwork, but some of the VAT issues that appear to be going on that are starting to divert trade, where a UK business may be effectively a distributor for a European manufactured product, obviously now an importer, but where the order will not be placed in the UK, it will be placed outside of the UK, not for any other compliance reasons other than Brexit. So there seems to be whether there's a need to increase the knowledge base of what needs to happen when moving products around, or whether anybody else is finding they're losing business because of the financial obligations of VAT in moving product. And this is where a product was going to be sourced from a UK company via a UK dealer on behalf of a project that was going to take place overseas and where in Europe, and where the factory is also in Europe. So effectively, it goes on the too difficult list, and it's easier for the order to be placed directly from the European member state to another European member state because of the free movement issues. And obviously that cuts the UK out of the process. So the financial complications are starting to come through in some areas there, but we have made representations to BEIS on this, who have referred it on to the Department for Trade, because they said, are there any known barriers of purchase that they foresee, with the view that if there isn't, then there's maybe a job for the UK government to do in working with overseas purchasers to say, you know, this is the way to go about it. It may be a case of a need for education or information to try and support the supply chain and prevent UK businesses losing out. But so if that does touch any of your lives, please do let me know on a confidential basis. But if I can have the detail, it's useful, because what I do is strip out any of the relevance to a company or a particular process and forward that on, so that at least government knows the challenges that you're facing on a day-to-day basis, and it's not just all swept under the carpet in terms of the real problems that companies are having. Thanks, Steve.
I may have mentioned it before, but we decided 2 weeks into the new year that it was too complicated to deal with supply for us in the UK to supply Southern or Northern Ireland. So all that business now, any revenue from that the Exchequer would have had is now lost. That's gone. We haven't lost the business as a group, but our parent company in Germany is getting it. But it's just short-sightedness, really. That we'll never change back now. So and I know of other companies that are just finding it too difficult, too complicated. And I think it's just you've got all sorts of countries and suppliers and customers, and they're just throwing the towel, or they'll choose somewhere else to go. Anyway, sorry, I've done enough talking. Anybody else want to make any comments or give a comeback? Yes, Nigel, go ahead.
Yeah, this is not a new issue, but we're just struggling again with it, and it's funding in the US, in the Middle East, not funding, but credit and getting payment from customers. And it isn't new. Everybody struggles with the Middle East because of the way they do their banking. I just wonder if anybody has any great advisors. We're listening to HSBC, which is our bank and which should be fantastic. They're probably giving us good advice, but just, you know, it's almost, well, that's the Middle East and that's the end of it, you know.
But we had quite a good, there was quite a good speaker we had on, I was it earlier this year, Jocelyn, or the end of last year? From the one of the I can't remember what they call it now, the DTI or the equivalent.
Export finance.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lady who came on, and that sounded good, but I didn't know if anybody had actually managed to make use of that and try it out, sort of thing.
I don't know.
Could you give me a link to that lady, Jocelyn or
Sure
Keith?
thing. Yes.
I don't think I was on that one.
I think from experience, the challenge has always been that they're seen as a solution of last resort when all other routes have failed. And of course, I think for most businesses, they've probably lost the business by the time it gets to that stage, actually, is the challenge. So unfortunately, there seems to be a practicality element of their service that's lacking. But yeah, we'll be pleased if we circulate that link around, if anybody is able to use them, and any feedback is useful again, because if it doesn't work, let's feed back in the reasons it's not working, because at least we've done as much as we can to try and bring about a change for the future, hopefully.
Thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else? No? Okay, well, thanks very much. Thanks for joining us, and we'll put out a date for the next one in due course. Is that fair enough, Jocelyn?
Yes, if we need to call the next meeting, we usually wait a few months, but if there's a need to have a meeting before September, then we certainly can. But we'll plan for September, I think, is a good, for sometime in the autumn.
Great. Okay.
Jocelyn, sorry to interrupt, Steve. It would be good to hear anything you hear, Jocelyn or Keith, about host over the next few months. Maybe circulate that around.
Mhm.
That would be great.
Just on the host issue, I know that there was a sense that the end of May have been a break point on it from any decision, only because of the sorts of indicative timelines that were being given by the organizer to some companies, certainly those that had cancelled. But yes, certainly we'll keep you posted. If we hear anything informally, we might pass that on in a gentle manner, just to let you know.
That would be helpful. We were watching FCSI because they hadn't booked, and they booked and we booked. That doesn't mean it's the right thing, but no. we were shadowing FCSI Europe with the thought that they might have a good feel.
But as I understand it, their stand is significantly smaller, which I guess indicates that the challenges and there'll be less flying in. And I guess for FCSI, they're probably not funding that themselves, which probably makes it relatively easy for them to book the space. But yes, as soon as we hear anything, we'll let the whole of the group know, certainly.
That'd be appreciated, Keith. Yeah.
Yeah, and can you send the slides from the Equip Hotel, the online stuff? That would be interesting.
Yes, certainly.
What's the view of Equip Hotel as an exhibition, and companies thinking to go or not? I mean, I know some of the challenges are, for some, see it as a national show for France. Obviously, in the way that it was presented today, it was to try and put it on the platform alongside a host or a golf host or a NAFEM show as a strong regional event. But what's the feeling around the table of Equip Hotel?
I think it certainly used to be a host equivalent many years ago, but I think it lost its way. Certainly, we've only ever done it once, and it wasn't a great exhibition for us. I've been to it pretty much every year that it's been on, but I think it is more of a French show than anything else.
So do you think, John, therefore, if some sufficient marketing and distribution and all the right channels and communication is there with consultants beforehand, if you're well sort of set up for France, that it would be therefore a good show to drive that business?
If you had a good distribution channel, absolutely. I think in terms of French customers for us, it's pretty much down to two companies throughout France who are all they're both representing themselves there anyway. So we actually probably get better. What's the, I don't want to do an Americanism, bang for the buck, but that's probably the easiest way of doing it, by helping out on their stands and putting money into that or investing into that to get space there rather than trying to do that ourselves. But yeah, it's very much, I think one of the things I found when we actually did it was everybody just wants to talk to you in French. So if you don't speak French, it becomes even harder to do. So I think a lot of it will depend on how host is. If host is well attended this time, then I think that will affect Equipe Hotel, because people will switch between Ambiente for our kind of product and host. So that's what I see.
And I think, John, also the competition from Sierra as an exhibition in Lyon, and I haven't heard that it's not going ahead in September, but I'm not particularly close to it. I think that was seen to be in the ascendancy, and the fact that they had the Baku store at Sierra as well lifted the platform of that against the old established Equipe Hotel, which was struggling, certainly in terms of venues and all sorts of other elements. Weren't they? Two different animals almost trying to chase the exhibitor pound.
Yes, and I think the problem with Sierra is you wouldn't even get an exhibition stand at Sierra. No. So that is just a massive show. Yeah. So for the French local market, that's the most important one.
Right. Okay. Right. Anybody else like to? Nigel? Yeah.
Sorry, I just agreed with John. I actually think it's a French-only show. I think it's hardly a host. And the difficulty with helping on the stands is you really do need to speak in French. So we use it with our primary distributor. They're always there, we support them, but it is quite difficult to be there capturing business. I found even international customers who, when you walk out of it, will speak in English, prefer to speak in French. So the local French ones, that's not a language, it's fair enough. Yeah. But I think it's definitely a French show, worth being at with a distributor, but not, very hard to support.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, everybody. I think we're going to have to. Keith, sorry, did you want to say anything else? No. Okay. Well, we'll call it a day. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time, hopefully.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you all.
Thanks everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for participating.
Thank you.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Thanks.